Ho, ho, ho. We are back with our second podcast. My name's Andy Dorsch.
And I'm Mike Ostertag, and welcome to the Second Section Podcast.
Outstanding. Outstanding. That was like we rehearsed it. Very good.
A little bit.
Yeah.
I like your hat.
Yeah, and you're looking quite festive yourself there. It looks like you got the reindeer horns on.
Yep, they're all glittery.
Yeah. So speaking, so just to keep our fans informed at home, we're recording this podcast the week of Christmas. So this will be coming to you hopefully before Christmas Eve. But yeah, we're all festive here at the Second Section Podcast. And I got to ask you, Mike, have you been a good boy or a naughty boy this year? Are you on the nice or the naughty list?
It's no fun being on the good boy list.
So that being said, do you have anything on your Christmas list at all?
Believe it or not, actually, no, not really. I have pretty much for the time being everything I really need.
Okay.
I don't know that I have a whole lot of. Well, if somebody out there knows how to repair and paint fiberglass speeder body, hit me up, because that would be pretty much helpful. That would be a good Christmas gift.
Okay, so maybe cue in the fans at home here. You have a speeder.
I do. I do. It's a former British Columbia Railway M19 speeder. It's just an old inspection vehicle. It was never really meant for like doing work or anything like that. It was just a track inspection speeder. So, and I'm in the process of beginning to restore it. And hopefully within the next 9 months to a year, I'll have it up and running.
Okay. So what's the plan? So you get it up and running. Do you get to take it out on the real rail, or how's this work?
Yeah. I'll take it to various events and meets where they have speeder events and things like that around the country and stuff. And hopefully get to go and see things from a completely different perspective on the tracks compared to what I get to see out of the locomotive.
Right.
You know, instead of being almost 2 stories up, I'm going to be like 12 inches up. So it's going to be kind of crazy.
Scraping the ties.
Well, it's kind of like anything. If you sit in a pickup truck and you're tooling around at 25 mile an hour, that's one thing. You go down into a little low profile car, 25 mile an hour seems like super fast. Like go into a go-kart. Sure. 25 is like flying.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so if Santa is listening, and we'll just say here at the Second Section Podcast that Mike's been a good boy. He's looking for some fiberglass speeder parts, preferably pre-painted.
Yeah,
So,
I need the body work done. It's hard.
And then just to give you a shameless plug here, you have a Facebook group for that too, right?
I do, and thanks for putting me on the spot, because I don't know the I don't know the name of it. It's BCR PGE M19 something like that on Facebook.
It just rolls off the tongue.
It does. It's easy to remember.
And then you have your own YouTube channel too under Michael Ostertag. So while you're rummaging around feverishly looking for that on the internet, you post updates to your YouTube channel on what you're doing with your speeder as well, correct?
I do. When I make my videos and things like that, I go and I post them to YouTube, and I like link it over to Facebook, and so that way everybody gets a chance to see it, see what's going on with it, and a lot of positive feedback on it. A lot of guys, wishing they could do this, and I'm sitting here trying to wonder what I did to think that I was going to be able to do this, but hey, if it's like anything else, it'll turn out pretty good at the end. It's going to be a good journey. It's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting.
That's awesome. I look forward to seeing how it shapes up over time here, and hopefully I get to go for a ride in it.
You are going to be one of the first people to get to go.
That's what I'm really angling for here. So,
are you hoping for or terrified? Because
no, it's I'm looking forward to it. So, yeah, well, that's awesome. So, I guess, Mike, for future segments on what's on your workbench, I think we need to talk about the speeder a little bit. That's almost like one-to-one model railroading in a sense. So.
I was kind of thinking about that because we're kind of segueing into the what's on your workbench.
That's right. That's right.
So I may have to do a kind of a pseudo live thing from out in the garage.
Now we're talking.
Like on my phone, and then come back down into the glorious, S-scale dungeon, and finish things up, but do the what's on my workbench from out in the garage, and then come down here and
yeah, like the real honest to goodness workbench. I think that's a fantastic plan. And for all of our viewers and listeners out there, you want to see more of Mike's speeder on the podcast, just leave us a comment or a note. If you're catching us on YouTube, put it down in the comments, or if you're following us on our Facebook page or Facebook group, which is the second section podcast, rolls right off the tongue.
Right.
You go ahead and let's talk about Mike's speeder a little bit, and then I think it's going to be a good thing to have on the show.
Yeah, it'll be fun. And we'll hey, are you familiar with Chris Costello? Do you know who Chris Costello is?
So you and I have mentioned him in conversation, but I don't think I've had the pleasure of being introduced or had any correspondence with him.
We'll have to have him on as a guest one of these times, because he actually owns the Erie Business Car number 1.
Ooh, wow!
So it's an actual heavyweight business car that was from the Erie Railroad. He owns it and is restoring it, and he's got the trucks done on it now, and now I believe he's working on the air brake system and things like that. And talk about one-to-one modeling.
Yeah, no kidding. Holy smokes.
And I blame him for getting me into this doggone speeder. So
with friends like these, right?
Yeah, no kidding, right?
That's awesome.
So what is on Andy's workbench right now? Because I know for a fact that you have been hard at doing some magnificent scenery here. So
okay, yeah. And while I'm gonna go ahead and flip the screen here so folks can see what's going on. And I'm actually gonna grab the camera. So if I drop you guys, I apologize. And we're gonna swing it around here. Oh boy, you guys are gonna get dizzy. Get to see what's going on in the underworld here. So this is what I have going on right now. This has been what's on my workbench. So if we pull out, and I figure out how to run the camera here. I've been working on basically just the first 18 inches of the Amberg spur, which is now going to be a storage track for the Mascoutin Valley Railroad. So you can see I have the photo backdrop there. I got some birch trees in the background just in front of that backdrop. And then you can see I got some rock castings and some static grass put in, some logs. And then I have that AccuRail car built that I did. So I did that in the last 2 weeks as well. So pretty much been keeping busy. I still have some details to add to the birch trees in the back. So those birch trees are actually just old sedum plants from my garden. So I got to add some leaves to it and put the brown and black stripes on them and that type of stuff. And then, of course, I got some of the static grass and the rocks all in place. Got, over here, I got a log pile and a down tree and that type of stuff. So there's 2 big pine trees that need to go in yet. So I'm going to put a big pine tree right here, a big 60-footer, and then I'll have one over here as well, which will be another big 60-footer that's basically just going to frame the scene here. And then this is where I'll be taking pictures of all of my, gallery or photo shots of the models that I make.
So that photo backdrop that you've got, I think we covered that. Did we cover discussing that the last podcast? I can't remember.
Yeah, we did. So we covered that in the first podcast, but basically what that was essentially just some pictures that I took with my cell phone, and then I stitched them together in Photoshop, and then had a local printer printed out on matte photo paper.
Oh.
And he had a big 4x 100-foot roll of it, and essentially I put two backdrops, on top of each other, and then just split them in half. So I wasn't wasting any of the photo paper.
The trees that you have on the foreground of that backdrop blend in. So that black backdrop blends that in so good when you take photography of it. You can't tell. You've got it set up so where you can't tell where one part ends and the other begins. You can't tell that that's just a 2-dimensional photo right there on the back.
Right.
That looks really, really cool.
Yeah. So I did some photo effects in Photoshop, where added some shadow and darkened some areas just to essentially give that illusion of depth or perspective there. So it took me about a couple days to get it to, I guess, where I wanted it, it's still only about 80% good. There's some blemishes from the sky background that didn't come out in the editing, but I don't know, for a first try, I'm pretty proud of it. So
yeah, not bad.
Yeah, not bad.
I wish I had more first tries that were, bad like that, bad like that.
Yeah. And then I do have one other thing on my workbench this week. So if I think it's the Crossing Gate podcast, they're talking about these clear shoe boxes that you can get from the Dollar Tree. And that's the Tom Gazier podcast for the Twin Cities division of the NMRA. So I have actually put together an entire project. This is my new locomotive project for the Mascoutin Valley. It has the decoder buddy, all of the photo etch parts from Kaiser Valley Models, and then all the detail parts, the speakers that are going to go into this locomotive, which is it's a U33C.
Nice.
Yeah. So
Nice.
we're going to be starting this project here. I mean, it looks a little worse for wear, but I got some time over Christmas break, and I'll be putting a video of that out on my YouTube channel as well for that build, and that's under Andy Dorsch. You can find me out on YouTube. But the locomotive is basically the kit's all put together in terms of all the parts, and now we just got to actually execute on it and put it together. So pretty excited that I'll have something to work on over Christmas break here.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because I have a whole bunch of the same, because I listened to the same podcast, and I started going and putting all my projects into these little shoebox tubs, the same thing like what you did.
Yeah.
And then I took a little label on mine, and one thing is I took the only difference that I have is like for mine, like this is a covered hopper that I have. And it's going to be a farm article. So I put the decals for it right in here.
Yeah.
So that way I know, okay, this is the number I'm going to have. This is where I'm going to do. This is a fantastic idea, Andy. makes it so organized. The only bad part about it is these do suck up a little bit of space. You know,
and and they're starting to stack up in my workshop. I have a Chicago and Northwestern, one of the Katy rebuilds, 1507, which I think was the AS 616.
Yep.
So I got one of those in one of those tubs that I gotta I'm putting together. Hopefully have that for a RPM meet in the future here. But that's a long-term project that I have out there. But a lot of those boxes are starting to stack up. So yeah, that's been pretty much everything that's been on my workbench for, I guess, the last couple of weeks here. So what about you, Mike? So, Mike, I think you've chose to mute yourself.
There we go.
Because this, I mean,
This
it was
is
good.
fantastic.
It looked good. It looked really good, but I didn't hear you.
I thought I unmuted myself. I had to cough, and I was like, "Oh,
Oh
boy."
yeah.
All right. So, as everybody maybe remember, I've had my S-scale locomotive engine house for the Farland terminal that I've been working on, and I decided that I needed to start getting these doors put on so I can get that put to bed and stuff. And as with everything with this project, I have to make the doors. And a friend of ours, Andy, Bruce Wilson from Barrie, Ontario, actually suggested that we or that I use these what is it, precision scale hinges.
Okay.
And so I'll see if I can get right up.
There you go. There you go.
I know it's a little blurry, but I just have them glued in there. And I
Yeah.
apologize for the styrene getting washed out. It's kind of the screen is a little bright, but so the doors are just styrene V groove and then styrene strip, and I'm making bifold doors out of it because I was gonna do roll up doors or like a garage door, and then another friend of ours, Dennis Eggert, I talked to him, and he sent me these pictures of a Chicago Northwestern engine house that was made out of steel that had wood bifold doors, and I thought, ooh, that checks all the boxes.
Kind of the best of both worlds there.
Yeah, exactly. So I've got all the doors made. I just have to detail them, and get all the hinges working and stuff. So while I worked on that, to kind of break up the monotony here a little bit, I went ahead and for some insane reason, I started to. I'll just show you this way here. I started to make my lighting.
Ah.
So Tichy makes lampshades in various scales. They make them, I believe, in HO and O and S. So I just thought, well, I need a light for the outside on the front and the back over the top of the, like most engine houses, you know, it's just want a light for over the top of the track.
Right.
So I decided I just made a light. I just bent a piece of copper or brass tube.
Yep.
And the LEDs in here are, I believe they're the nano LEDs. So they're very small.
Sure.
But I have them. I'm using a 10K resistor on them, so they aren't really bright. They look like an incandescent. They're a warm white incandescent is what the look looks.
Right.
So they give just enough light to illuminate the area directly underneath them, and they don't go all over the place.
Yeah.
So I started working on these.
Yep.
And for those of you that want to know these, now the closest hobby shop to Andy and I is I would say for for me, I should say at least, is Engine All Services here in Green Bay. That's where I got these parts from, minus the lampshades, but that's where I got the LEDs from and the resistors.
Not sponsored, by the way. They are
No,
not sponsored.
they are not a
They're,
sponsor.
they're not a
I'm just,
sponsor.
just like anything else around here, it's we want to make sure we're telling you how and what,
Right,
where,
exactly.
and why. Nothing's a secret. That's for sure. It's model railroading.
Yeah,
So
it's so secretive.
yeah, no kidding, right? So I started to put one. I have the first one on the outside of the building, actually.
Yeah, that looks really good. Yeah, that's coming in.
Yeah.
Good.
So that's on the outside, and if you notice, just in
Ooh, I
keeping
see
with
the
full
wires.
disclosure, you see the hole right there.
Oh
That's
yeah,
where
what'd you do?
That's where I drilled it, thinking,
Attaboy.
oh, that'll look good. Yeah. Then I realized, hey, the doors have to open. This drops down.
A little too far.
Yeah. So what I'm
No
going to do with that is
no clearance.
Yeah, no clearance. So what I'm going to do is I have this set of, I believe these are decals that go to some kind of tower of some sort, because they all have junction and like different names. But there's a sign on here that says, that square one says, think safety first. So I'm just going to take and cut a piece of styrene.
Yep.
Put that on there.
Sure.
And then glue that over the top of the hole, and then weather
Perfect.
it. So
that's awesome.
So it's just kind of and then real quick on the inside.
Okay.
Is the first? You can see the first.
Oh, you got one there on the truss.
I suppose it would be easier if I spun it around. There we go.
So you can see it right there on the truss. That triangle part there that holds the roof up.
And then I have a small piece of C channel there to use as a pseudo ballast.
Oh yeah, boy! So you're not just putting the fixture in; you're putting all the complementary items in there as well. So
I'm trying
like a ballast, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I really like the idea of that sign, because I think that would be something that you would see, in an engine facility or on railroad property, right? They're always going on about safety.
Yeah, signage is huge on a railroad, and so sometimes it's too much. You don't want to say that you can never have too much, but sometimes it's okay. Yeah, we get it. But
right.
But for the most part, it's a good way to cover up a mistake.
Yep.
And that's truly what that was a mistake, and so we're gonna see how things go. I've only got, I believe, 6 more lights here. I have 6 more lights. I have them all set and ready to go here. They're all pretty much, I just have to put the lights on. They're all shaded and everything is all set to go that way.
Well, that's looking good.
I just have to plant them all in, and then once I get them all in, the plan is to run the because the roof is going to be where it's at. I'm going to try to run some ducting of some sort through there to house the resistors.
Oh, there you go.
To kind of make it look like it's following a path in order to get all the wiring out of the building and down. I haven't got that far figuring that out yet.
Like a major 6-inch piece of conduit or something like that. Scale 6-inch conduit.
Yep.
440 volts. Watch out.
Yep. No kidding, right? So that's basically all that I've got on my workbench right now. Other than an absolute disaster, which is cleaning. I got to clean bad.
Yeah, and not to, maybe we should change the podcast to the name drop podcast, but because we've been doing a lot of name dropping, but there I think on that Crossing Gate podcast, William Sampson's on there, and he's got his own YouTube channel called Sue the Milwaukee Road, he's back out releasing videos now, which is awesome.
Yep.
But he always said that the good modelers are the ones that can hide their mistakes, because guess what? They all make mistakes, and you and I are no different. So
Yep.
covering up a hole. That's the first thing I do is go, oh shoot, how do I hide this? I mean, and if you looked at my scene with my scenery, I had some rock castings that sat above the ground goop that I put in there, and had a gap in there, maybe about by a eighth of an inch. So I had to take static grass tufts and jam them in there to hide that, and that was a mistake, right? So
Yeah.
I also punched a hole in the backdrop. And so I had to put a tree in front of it, right? So that it couldn't, so that it's not visible. So those are the things, learning to do that on the fly. That's it's not that there's a guy who can make a car look like the real thing. No, the master modelers are the ones who can hide the mistakes, because they all make them. So
yeah,
I thought
every single one of them.
Yeah. And they're lying
every
to you.
one of them.
They're lying to you if they say they never make a mistake. So
Yeah, it's making a mistake. If you don't make a mistake and learn from it, well, I'd like to shake your hand.
you're not trying.
You're not trying hard enough.
You're not trying. Okay. So very, very good stuff, Mike. So just to bring it back to the folks again, if you're new here to the Second Section podcast, we kind of have I guess you could say a script that we follow. So we have our intro, we have the what's on our workbench, and now and we're a whole 2 shows in, and I can honestly say that this is our most popular segment of the show. So Mike, do you want to talk about your segment here?
Sure. Okay. This is called the Shortline of the show. And
That's right.
Just a little recap. What we're going to do is we're going around the country, around the United States, and probably Canada, and possibly a couple other small little countries that are within arm's reach of the United States. And what we're going to do is we're going around. The last podcast was, I believe, the Alabama Export Railroad. Alabama being alphabetical. We're going to go alphabetical order. So, with that being said, this podcast, short line of the show, is going to be the White Pass and Yukon Railroad in Alaska. Not a lot of people are familiar. Well, I shouldn't say that. I'm sure most people out there have heard of the White Pass and Yukon. But do they know about what it's about? Like, it's a touristy railroad now, but it has got a phenomenal history going way back to the Klondike Gold Rush.
What?
Yes. I kid you not. When I did some research on it, reading on it and everything, I'm like, I was mesmerized by the history of this railroad. It physically shut down in 1982 after a big like steel industry slowdown or whatever you want to call it. And here I've got I'm going to flip to a thing here.
You flip to a thing.
Here is their website. Okay.
Go share your screen.
Oh, I got to go share my screen.
Yeah.
There we go. Let's see. Share. And share
so live
screen.
demos here, folks. This is a live demo.
This is fantastic. We're going to get around to this. We'll figure this out eventually by show 100.
Yep.
Okay, so now you can see it.
Well,
so here's
nice.
the White Pass and Yukon.
Okay.
They are now they're a touristy railroad. I want to say they only make a 40-mile round trip.
Okay.
I may be completely wrong. I've been kind of having a little bit of an issue trying to figure out exactly what the length of the railroad is, because there are. At one time, this was actually built as 3 separate railroads when it was built, because a portion of it goes from, I'm going to say, Skagway, Alaska, north to the British Columbia border. Then there's a chunk that goes through the province of British Columbia in Canada, and then that portion ends at the border of British Columbia and the Yukon province, and then continues all the way north from there. It's all connected, but each segment, each each portion of that was considered a different railroad at one time.
Really?
It was insane.
So let me ask you this: does that break our rule then of the subsidiaries, or are we still going to allow that?
No, I think we can allow it because it's
Okay.
all under one thing. It's called the White Pass in Yukon. That was way back in the turn of the century, and I'm talking the turn of the 19th century.
Oh wow!
So like 1889, 1890s,
Right, back in the
somewhere
prospector days.
way back then. And like I said, the main portion of this railroad when it was built was to help to let's see if I have the map here. Nope, that's the power. There's the map.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so the main thing was there was gold found in the Klondike area, in the Yukon and things of that, in this whole area here.
Right.
And the railroad was built to try to get the gold that was found down to where it could be shipped to places. That's basically the gist of why the railroad was originally built. As the gold started to run out and things of that nature, they found ore and other things that they could ship. This railroad is not connected to anything else. It doesn't connect. It's a 3-foot. It's narrow gauge.
It's narrow gauge. Okay.
3-foot narrow gauge, and it actually owned its own shipping line. It owned its own container boats, and it's just a fascinating railroad. Now you can go and just ride on it.
Yeah, so this looks like it traverses some pretty rugged country.
It does, and my memory is not the best anymore. I know I just can't remember the name of these areas because I'm just learning about it. But it followed these valleys and these river valleys all along its entire route, and these little areas like what I think that's Carcross is. These are actually small, like I think in Wisconsin we would call it like a flowage. I think up there we call it like a lake. I think they call them lakes up here, up in Canada. But it's like kind of like the same as a flowage. It's a wider portion of body of water that is connected and has a current to it that comes from the river that it's connected to, but it has several of these that it connects or goes through and goes over. And the scenery that this place goes is just gorgeous. I mean, absolutely gorgeous. I don't know enough about it. Here's some photos here where it like 1896, they're starting to find the gold in 19. I'm sorry for you in radio land that aren't able to see the pictures because I know it's audio is audio, but I'm just going to scroll real quick down. There are some whole towns were being built around because of the gold rush.
Sure.
And the railroad was being put like basically right down the middle of the rizzy.
Yeah, right down Main Street.
Right down Main Street. And then this is actually a very interesting photograph. It's a picture of a 262. It's White Pass and Yukon's first locomotive.
260, or is that a 262?
Or a 260. I'm sorry, 260. Yep. And it's number 2. This was the very first locomotive ever in Alaska.
Wow.
The very first one. And it came from the Utah and Northern. So it came to the White Pass and Yukon secondhand.
That's awesome.
It's just, so if you're out there looking for something and you want to dip your toe into narrow gauge and you want to do something a little more modern, with modern equipment, not modern equipment, I shouldn't say. Well, they do have diesels and they have some fairly large diesels now, but they had I think, what are they called? DL 535s, I believe they were.
Okay.
you can actually go and see those over at the Durango and Silverton in the United States, out in Colorado, because the Durango and Silverton bought them from the White Pass in Yukon. So there's some of those in the United States now down in Colorado. It's just an interesting railroad if you want to dip your toe into narrow gauge and you want to do something a little different and you want a nice little shelf layout, or you want to try doing something a little bit more basement filling with tall mountainous scenery and things of that nature.
I gotta be honest here. I've seen like O gauge, like 3-rail O gauge models with this railroad on it. I thought it was a fake railroad, to be 100% honest with you.
And here you see this is what they call them, a shovel nose, obviously with good reason.
Yeah, right.
As you can see, number 93. These were designed because of how cold it was. It's called a Class 90 or a 90 class locomotive, and I believe these are GEs.
Wow.
Right?
I mean, it looks like they got the GE trucks there on the bottom.
Yep.
From what I can tell. And the air piping and all that with the tanks.
They look really weird with the trucks being so far in from the side of the car body.
Yeah.
And the car bodies are,
because it's they're to the 3-foot gauge, I'm assuming.
Yes. Yeah.
Nice.
Absolutely. And then they did have let me get to it here quickly. They did have some. Here are the DL 535s. These are kind of the most popular or most well-known, I would say, of their White Pass and Yukon locomotives.
Right. Look at that snowplow on the front. That's a monster. Holy cow. I mean, Alaska, right?
Right. The snow up there is no joke.
No, it is not. It's not.
But look at the cool details that are on this locomotive, and all the air intakes and the extra air intakes and all that stuff for these. It's just fantastic. You can tell that these sit a little lower than a typical locomotive.
Yeah. They really look awesome. I mean, if you look at those, so you could even get into the, I guess, post-transition era, with the 70s and 80s with those. And those DL 535s, who made those? Were those Baldwin?
These are made by that's the one I have up there right now is not by them. I want to say they're by Montreal Locomotive Works.
Montreal Locomotive Works, okay.
Yeah. So here's something that was made by I can never say this right. Bombardier, them.
That company.
These were the last 3 locomotives that they got. They're basically a North American cab variant of the DL 535. However, the way I understand it, these never were delivered to the White Pass in Yukon, and they sat on a flat car for the longest time. And I believe in 1994, this photo it's in Plaster City, California. Huh. I know these went someplace. I want to say they went overseas to Australia, but I might be wrong on that. I'd have to do some further research. But cool little railroad, neat, interesting. If you want to do stuff prior to 1982, during the 70s and 80s or early 80s, they had like their own little container line. And as I can show you here quick by scrolling down, here's some of the ships. This is their own boat ship that they had.
Yeah.
Look at the size of the gantry crane that's on that thing.
I mean, it's basically like a container ship or freighter combination.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And so you could do, if you want to do more modern days, it's mostly tourist stuff. I'm not sure how much freight they do right now, but if you do prior to 1982, you can do a lot of different freight things, a lot of ore industry. I'm sure there's probably some lumber that was hauled on here.
For sure.
All sorts of different things. Just a cool little railroad. And I wanted to kind of have something other than the Alaska Railroad, because that thing is
Yeah, right.
that's a big monster, and this is the only other short line or only other railroad up there. So
Very
that is
cool.
your short line of the show. Next podcast, we're going to travel to balmy Arizona.
Arizona. Ooh, I was in that neck of the woods this last week. So we'll I look forward to seeing what they have out there in Arizona for short lines. So before we totally close the book on this chapter of the show, we were referencing a website out there for the locomotives and the different types of equipment. Do you want to just share with our crew, our section gang, what website were you using there?
Yeah, absolutely will. Here, let me get back to sharing the screen here quick. My big go-to is railroadpicturearchives.net.
Sure.
It's a phenomenal website. This is a go-to if you're looking for. It's a lot of roster shots, but they're amazing reference, tool to be. They started adding those little ads there, but you can, yeah, which is kind of annoying. But we'll go over here to Shortline Railroads here right quick. Let's just pick. Okay, how about the Air Lake Terminal Railway? Well, yeah, Alabama Export Railroad. There we go.
There you
We
go.
did that one.
Yeah.
So it's, as you can see, Alabama Export Railroad. They have 2 locomotives. You can take a look and view them. It tells you what they are. As you can see, the builder, how many units they have, what the model number is.
Yeah.
Then you could go in here, and I know these photos aren't the greatest, whoever took them, because they're from in a car. But there's one, yeah. So
there you go.
And generally, information is usually added as to the history of what these are. And you usually see that up here, and then each historical portion is linked to that locomotive in history. So, right. Yeah. So it's a great reference tool, and it's Railroad Picture RRPictureArchives.net.
Very cool. And thanks for sharing that. I know a lot of people know about that, but no secrets here on the old second section. So, for people that are looking for resources or just getting into the hobby, that type of stuff, this is, I must hit them up at least twice a week just to pull roster shots and that type of stuff. So very cool. Very cool, Mike. Okay. So, keeping in line with our script that we have here on second section. So we've done what's on our workbench. We've done short line of the show. Finally got the producer here to change the scrolly on the bottom there from last week's main topic of discussion was the state of model railroading. And that was a doozy. Mike and I had a knockdown drag out. So I recommend going back and checking out our first episode if you haven't.
I won.
Mike totally won. That's where I'm wearing my glasses. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
So the producer finally caught up with the script, and tonight's main topic is going to be New Year's resolutions. So every year it seems like people come out and say, all right, I'm going to do this year. And this is the year that I'm going to have an op session. This is the year that I'm going to build 84 locomotives. I'm going to have them all weathered. I'm going to have them in a contest. This is the year to talk, or this is the time of year to talk big and dream big about what we're wanting to accomplish in model railroading in 2022. So, Mike, I'll let you kick this topic off. So what are your resolutions? What are you going to stick to this year?
I think my biggest modeling resolution is going to be to finish, not just finish, but finish the entire first section of the engine house scene, with the engine house and up to the first several switches, and getting the background, the photo backdrop done.
Sure.
That's kind of a hard thing to talk about. I think it might be even harder than last time, because there's so many different ways you could go. I would really like to say I want to. My main resolution is going to be to fill the entire basement with trains, but that's not going to happen. In keeping it, trying to be realistic about it, making an attainable goal is finishing this engine house, because it could take me another couple of months before I get that taken care of, and then starting to blend in the scenery along with that and start moving on to other bigger projects.
Okay.
I guess that would be my biggest thing, because it could take me until this time next year. I'm sure my desk will look the same now, or same then, as it does now.
So I guess to build on that, so why do you think that this engine house is going to take up that much of your time? So give us some ideas as to, I don't know, what's gonna soak that all up? What are you gonna do that's gonna basically make this a long, drawn out process?
I'm not rushing in. I'm not exactly rushing through any of the steps that I'm doing on this. That's the main thing, is I'm trying to make sure that everything is square, and if I don't get something quite right first time, I go back and redo it. And I've done some of these doors 2-3 times already, and like with the lighting, I have to figure out how I'm going to do that. There's going to be mounting it shouldn't be too big of a problem, but then I need to blend the scenery into this thing, and then get all those wires together and get all that squared away and everything. A lot of that's just calculating and math and figuring out how I'm going to make it look like there's not a spaghetti bowl inside of this thing, so
sure,
it's going to take time. It's just, I might only work on one wire, because these big old meat hooks don't fit inside that thing very well. So I did not exactly design it for being able to put my hand in.
No. You didn't design it for maintenance?
I did not. I did not. So I mean, and on top of that, like anybody else, and what they should probably do is, one time, I can only work on this so many days out of the week. And there's been a week already where this past week I've worked on it very little, and because I just have to step away from it.
Sure.
And stepping away from something and then coming back to it gives you new, fresh perspectives on things. So, especially if you start getting bug eyes, and because, you get frustrated with something, and then you just don't want to do it anymore. So when you start feeling frustration set in, I just walk away from it for a day or two and set it off to the side and go do something else. So.
Sure. I'm going to throw a bit of a wrinkle, because I'm going to put you on the spot yet again here. I know I'm just the worst. I'm just the worst.
Yeah.
So, we're talking about the new year and what we want to do. But I think it's also an important part of making a resolution is the reflection on what you all accomplish this year. So, I mean, you've done a lot of stuff.
Yeah. I've gotten my basement, the basement walls, halfway done.
Yep.
I don't want to bring that up in mixed company, because she is very much upset at the fact that the basement's not done. I had every intention on getting the whole thing done, but I got to the point. Yeah, well, yeah, I got to the point where I could put my layout up, and I put my layout.
Yeah, that was it.
Oop, that was it. Done. Yeah. But I got my layout put up. I've gotten my track work is up. It's functional. Track is all laid. And now I'm starting to work on scenery components. And so, yeah, I've accomplished quite a bit. There's a lot left to do, but with being an S scale and the larger size, that allows me to be a little bit more detailed, especially with a small. My layout's only 11.5 inches deep, 11 inches, whatever a shelf is. Unfinished shelf from Menards is what I got. So they're about 11 inches, 11.5 inches deep. So you're right there. So detail is really important.
Yeah, right.
So I'm trying to make sure that as I'm going along, I'm factoring in the details that you would normally see, so that it doesn't look, because I have it actually set at a height where you're not really looking down at it. You're kind of looking almost directly at the side, a little bit, like about a little bit higher, about like you're looking at it like if you were flying a drone at about 15 feet off the ground.
Okay,
that's about where you're at. So the shelf is like right about here.
Wow, so it's almost chin high then.
A little bit lower than chin high, but yeah, right around in that, like right around the neck area. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll have to bring my step stool then if I'm gonna operate, being an elf and all.
Yeah. Well, you know what? That's all right. But I mean, I have accomplished quite a bit this year, and stuff I'm pretty proud of. Stuff I never thought I'd be able to accomplish, and I did. And now I'm, trying to finish this thing off. And once I get that taken care of, it's going to be, on to the next, headache.
Yeah, right. on to the next challenge or opportunity, right? That's what the that's what the business people tell you.
Yeah, right.
It's not a headache. It's an opportunity.
Yep.
Well, good.
So, how about you? What do you got for a modeling New Year's resolution?
Well, I don't. So I'll go back and I'll do my look back on 2021. So I didn't. It didn't feel like I got a whole lot done. But looking back, I actually built the Mascoutin Valley. So I did all the bench work. I filled an 11 by 16 room with a shadow box style bench work design. And then I added another, I guess, 9 by 16 on top of that. So I have 2 rooms worth of bench work. And I have track down to some degree where I can go point to point and run trains back and forth. And that was a big accomplishment for me as well. So for me, that was pretty big to actually, I haven't had a layout in probably 2 years, a functioning layout. And for me to get back and actually have trains run, it was a huge deal for me because I've been a couple years of me not really enjoying the hobby, and COVID kind of prevented me from going and visiting layouts and running trains with friends. So having my own layout, it was necessary. And for me, getting those trains running again was a big deal, and a big deal for my son, who's really getting into the hobby as well. He's only 5, but he loves running trains. And now that we have the big layout set up, he can run his big steam engines and his passenger cars and all that around. And so he's, him and I just have a blast down here. So for us, that was a big accomplishment in 2021. And then I think for me, looking back on 2021, I really started to develop my scenery skills. I did have that Fremo module that I was working on for the Chicago Northwestern Marsh Line subdivision project that I was working on.
Yep.
And putting that El Dorado scene together this year really changed how I looked at doing scenery. from static grass and different textures, and using plants out of my garden for trees and shrubs, and using different techniques for water, not pouring resin. I didn't use any resin, and made a really sharp looking marsh scene with some pools of water rippling
That
in
did
the
turn out
breeze.
really cool.
And then using my imagination and using tips from friends to make cattails out of old paintbrushes and those types of things. So it's, for me, leveling up my skills was definitely something I did here in 2021. I did do a couple of pieces of equipment, and then I wrote some stuff for some publications, namely Model Railroad News. But yeah, it's, to me, it didn't look like I accomplished a lot of stuff. However, when you go back and think about it, I really did.
Is it one of those things where you looking at it from your own perspective, it doesn't seem like a lot, but when you hear about it, you say it out loud, it kind of clicks that, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
did I really get all of that done?
I mean, that's the truth, So, like even just this scene over here, this is only 18 inches, and it's only a foot deep. However, that was a pretty big accomplishment. And then you can see here on the other side, I've got another 4 feet done, and then there's track going back through the divider here. I mean, so it's it was for where I was 2 years ago. This is a tremendous improvement from where I was.
So what do you plan on accomplishing in 2022?
Yep.
What is your main accomplishment you want to get done in 2022?
So my resolution for 2022 is the following. I am not tearing this layout down. So if you follow my model railroading journey, and I've appeared on the A Modeler's Life podcast, it's always been the running joke that I get a layout built and then I tear it down. So if Morgan Pavia is listening, that guy's, he made a billboard sign for me about a demolition service, Dorsch's Demolition. If you got a layout, you'll get it Dorsch.
Yeah.
But my resolution this year is to not tear this down. And I think for me, I can at least say this today. What I have going on over here is it's really starting to turn out the way I want it. And I think that was for me a journey to get to that state. And I'm really, really excited to where this is going. I like the operation theory that you and I have set up for this railroad. And I think it's going to be a fun thing to operate, as well as some nice scenery to look at and some good models. So not tearing it down. That's my resolution this year.
That's a good one.
But for things that I want to accomplish, obviously, so getting this scene finished is something. The locomotive, right?
Yep.
That's in the box. I want to get that done. So I have a third locomotive. I have, and then this other piece of equipment here. I have the Wisconsin and Midwestern, which is power that's coming over from a donor railroad.
A donor railroad.
Yeah, maybe a defunct railroad. But I want to have that. I want to put sound and finish the details on that locomotive, and then
That's cool.
and start setting the scene. So basically, just getting it, just moving the needle along and getting one scene done. And then I'd like to have, I think my last goal for 2022 is to invite a couple people over to operate, and let's shake it down and see if it works out.
Which is actually a huge accomplishment for any modeler that's out there, is especially in this day and age, is getting over the stigma of should I or should I not have people over, and and stuff like that. And that would be an incredible accomplishment. So
Yeah. And basically right now this layout's not, it's not designed to hold 84 people. This layout is designed to be able to run with 1 to 2 operators, at the most 4 or 5, so that way, we have a few jobs, a couple of road trains, some locals, and then a small yard job, and that's it.
Yep.
Nothing exciting. There'll be a cooler of beer down here, and it's
Perfect.
just come over, you have a beer, have a soda, have a water, whatever, sit down, run some trains, talk some trains, and just have a good time. That's the whole point of this, is to share and relax.
Yep. Shouldn't be taking this too seriously. It's just modeling.
Just model trains.
It's just model trains, man.
Just model trains. So that's my resolution for the year.
That's awesome. Perfect. That's great.
Okay.
And now for the fun topic.
The fun topic. Just the tips.
Just the tips. Yep. I'm gonna let you go first this time, since I went first last time.
Okay. So I'm gonna point you down to the workbench. This one, I didn't tell you guys about this beforehand. So one of the things that I don't like doing is paying for anything, if I can prevent it. So sanding sticks, if you buy them at the hobby shop, are, they're a package of them can be pretty pricey, anywhere between $5 to $10. And the grits are not always what you want. So this is a popsicle stick.
Oh.
So I consume many popsicles in the summer because I still am a 14-year-old boy, mentally.
Nothing wrong with that.
And then this is a sheet of 600 grit sandpaper that I picked up at Ace Hardware for $1.45.
Oh, wow.
So
How many sheets did you get, Andy, for $1.45? Just the one, or
just the one sheet? But if you look at how many sticks you can make out of just one sheet, you can see that's for all day, a 30-cent popsicle, and $1.40, or a $3 box of popsicles. You're all in here. Plus, you get to control what the grit of your sandpaper is, so you can have, here I have one that's a 220 grit. I'll put that up to the camera so you can see that.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, and then basically what I do is I just take some Loctite super glue, and in my opinion, this is the best super glue on the market for anything. And then I just take my popsicle stick here, put some glue on it. Yeah, this is super technical. Maybe. Oh man, my glue bottle here is all gooed up. Live demo.
Yeah, live demos. Gotta love them, right?
Yeah, this ain't coming out. I love it so much that it doesn't work. Here, I'll get a different bottle of glue.
Have you ever thought about just using like double-sided tape to do that?
Yeah, but
maybe not adhere as well to the backing of the sandpaper.
So I don't know the reasoning. I just know that I have a little more control with glue, than I do with like double-sided tape. My fingers don't work well enough to the where I can manipulate it. Then I just stick it down, get it close to the edge, and then just take my hobby knife and cut it off, trace it around.
Oh, nice.
Yep. So it's
easy
nothing,
peasy. Take a little Sharpie.
Yeah. And of course, not dried 100%, but it's dried on my finger. Holy bleep that out. And then you just, write on there what your grid is.
Very cool. Very
Jeez.
cool.
Live
Very
demo.
cool. I've seen like a Fleet Farm, or if you have a home improvement store that sells automotive supplies like batteries and windshield wipers, things like that. You can get. I've seen, as a matter of fact, I have it someplace around here. Is 1,000 and like 2,000 grit
Sure.
for doing like really super fine sanding.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah. So this, like I said, I think 600 is the most fine that I have. But yeah, that's a good tip for pulling back on even to go to like 1,000. Go in the automotive section. That's where it's at.
That's an awesome one, because I've bought those sanding sticks in the past, and
Yeah.
all they are is like they're like a piece of. I almost hesitate to use the word gator board, because they're really not gator board. It's more like a strip of foam board. And they bend really easy. Yeah, I've got a whole bunch of those, and they're nice. They're nice because they'll flex around corners and things. But once they snap, you're done. Yeah.
Yeah, these things here, they're okay. But then, I actually prefer, the homemade ones.
Yeah.
So I got, the 320 here, and 180, 120, and the 600, and like I said, for a couple bucks,
yeah,
these will last you forever.
That's pretty cool. That's really cool.
So yep, cheap tip.
Well, should I do mine now?
Yeah, let me get you switched over here. This is going to be. This is it.
Okay, wait until you see this one, because this one is a, how can I put it? My tip this podcast is a why didn't I think of that type thing, and I actually stumbled. I can't remember whose video I was watching, but they never mentioned doing this. I was just observing what they were doing, and I'm like, hey, that's a good idea. So my tip this podcast is bottle caps.
Aha.
Okay. These are so versatile. We'd all drink water, soda, beverages of some sort out of a bottle. And these caps, I used to take a piece of styrene and put a little dab of glue on, or my CA on there, and then go through everything. And then when I wanted to accelerate it, I just took my bottle of accelerator right here, and I squirted it, and it went on the entire model. Well, what I figured out is, and this isn't earth-shattering, this isn't life-changing at all, but you have much more control if you just put a little bit of glue, and you can see inside here, maybe there's some residual glue in there. And this one's by far not ready to be thrown away. So you can have CA, you can put CA in here, take a toothpick or whatever kind of applicator that you want. I've enjoyed, and I keep on forgetting to use these, but they are so doggone versatile and nice. These it's called a glue looper by Creative Dynamic LLC right here.
Yeah, I've seen these.
And you put them inside your X-Acto knife handle.
Yep.
And as you can see, the loop on it, you can use them for CA. I think they're mainly used for like plastic weld or something like that too. But you can get whatever adhesive you want. You can use this to get it right close. So you just take this, dip it down into your CA, which is right here inside your cap, and then you could take your another bottle cap and just go and simply, instead of squirting it all over the model, you just take a couple small squirts of it, put it in there.
Sure.
Now you have kind of hard to see, but you have a little bit of a base of liquid in there. And you take a different looper, you put it in there, and you can pinpoint exactly where you want the cure to go. And you don't make a mess. And at the end, if you want to get rid of them, you can get rid of them. These bigger black ones come off of a Pure Leaf bottle. Like the bigger black ones are off of a Pure Leaf bottle. Yep. Those work really good if you want to do some like I'm going to use one of those to do the signage to make those signs. Just put a little bit of water from a water bottle inside there and let it do your small decals with that. Instead of having this huge
frisbee decal full of water.
A big plate full of water, you can actually like this right here. I use this old, it's not even Tupperware, I was dollar store or whatever. This is usually what I put my decal stuff in, but I don't need to my water. So using bottle caps or caps as a holder, and on top of that, when you go to do stuff, these make a natural, whether you have toothpicks, which, again, the joys of live TV. Okay, one of the things that these have is what the ceiling, the little, and it's almost impossible to see. I'll bet you any money you won't be able to see them.
Yeah, it's those little serrations.
The little serrations, you could just maybe barely see them, right?
Yeah, the little teeth.
So you can go and put your toothpick on, and it's not going to roll away.
Right.
Because those serrations are going to hold it in place. So if you have like your little, and if you have your little, like, I'm going to do this and it's going to fall right off. I know it is. But like these little, I like using these little
micro brushes.
Yeah,
I use those too.
Of course it did. But you can get them to stay on there depending on the serration, how much is left on there. And then bottom line is if you need to clean stuff up, you go here, you throw it away, you go upstairs, get a bottle of water, you take the cap off, you get done with your bottle of water, throw the cap in a bag, and you have another holder. So that is my tip for the podcast.
Well, Mike, that's fantastic. I like the practical. I like the practical little nuggets that we're sharing here. I'm gonna start saving caps. I saved Tupperware, like the containers and stuff, but now it's another box and another pile in my storage room, and the wife's like, "What in the heck are you doing with these things?" I'm like, "Don't worry about it.
Well, you're welcome.
Saving you money.
Yep,
that's awesome.
And not only that, but you're saving yourself some money by doing it because you're not wasting something like a piece of styrene or scrap paper, because now you can use that piece of styrene or that scrap or something instead of getting it all glued up and gunky. Now you can go and use it for something that you actually would need to build with it. So yeah, there's my tip. Now I got to come up with something for next time.
Yeah, we'll have to. Yeah, so in 2 weeks, right? We're gonna have to have a little progress and a new tip here. So this podcast format's certainly gonna test our mental capacities. I'm sure. So well, very good, Mike. I just want to give a quick note to all of our viewers and listeners out there in podcast land. You can find us on YouTube under the Second Section Podcast. You can also find us out where you enjoy all your favorite audio podcasts on Apple, Spotify. I think we're on Amazon now. Any podcast hosting site, Buzzsprout is where we're hosted. So you can go out there and grab a listen for us out there. And, we love hearing the feedback. We got a ton of comments, notes from our viewership, on the first one. And we truly appreciate all the feedback that we're getting. And then be sure to check us out on our Facebook page, Second Section Podcast. It's actually not a page, it's a group. Admission's pretty simple there. Just don't be a bot or a hacker, and we'll let you in. So Mike, before we wrap things up, am I missing any of the housekeeping items here on where you can find us?
Nope, I think that's pretty much it. I think we
Okay.
we've got it pretty much wrapped up.
Okay, and as always, if you guys have a comment on how we can improve things out here, or if you have a topic, or if you want to be a guest on the show, let us know. We're thinking about doing an actual live show here on YouTube. So feel free to come in and participate in the chat and sit down and have a little rap session with Andy and Mike. So
Just want to say, Andy and everybody out there, Merry Christmas.
thank you.
And happy New Year, because it'll be after the first of the year before we get to the next one.
Yeah.
So I think January 4th, I believe, is our next. January 3rd, January 4th, I believe, is the next.
Is the next recording?
Next recording, yeah.
Yeah.
So
well, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Thank you. So I hope everybody gets what they want and enjoys their family time. That's it's very important. So.
All right. So as we do our Midwestern goodbye here, I just want to thank everyone out there for tuning in, listening. And I think we're going to have to figure out a way to sign off here. I think we're going to need some code words or something like that, Mike.
So nothing like red green with keep your stick on the ice, or.
Oh, I think that's it. I think that's just it. I think we need
to come up with something like that, right?
Yeah, we need to keep up. Maybe it'll be a viewer or listener comment that spurs us to do the sign off. But anyways, thanks everybody out there, and we'll catch you next time. Bye.
Bye, guys.